what Donald Trump said about the conflict and how he sees the conflict in the Middle East, specifically about Iran. And it seems that he somehow, I'm going to play a video that he's talking to the crowd in the United States. He's somehow talking about the attack on Iran and just bragging about how successful the attack was. But during the way that he's picturing the situation, he's suggesting that the United States would attack Iran soon. Here is what he said.
And we shot 30 Tomahawks, you know that. On top of, after the B-2, how about that? The B-2s, what they did, those beautiful flying wings, what they did, they hit every single target they hit. And just in case, we shot 30 Tomahawks out of a submarine. Every one of them hit too. So I would say Iran was not particularly thrilled. They were going to have a nuclear weapon within a month. And now they can start the operation all over again, but I hope they don't, because we'll have to take care of that too if they do. I let them know that you want to do that, it's fine, but we're going to take care of that, and we're not going to wait so long. It should have been done long before I came along. You know that I had the pilots of the B-2s in my office, the famous Oval Office. I had them in the B-2s. They came in to the White House, and we talked about it. They said, you know, sir, for 22 years, our predecessors and us trained for that hit. For 22 years, they were training to take out the nuclear potential of Iran. He said, but it was only when you came along that we did it. And they were so happy that they did it. But they've been training for that hit for 22 years.
What's the reality on the ground, Larry, so far? What we've learned from the media, from the open sources, that a dozen tankers were delivered to Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. You see the activities in not only in the Middle East, in Central Asia, in the South Africa. It seems that they're preparing to do something big.
Yeah. I don't know if it would be done. It most likely would be done in conjunction with Israel. And but go back and listen to what he said. 22 years. So wait, we're always being told that, oh, Iran's just weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. And yet they waited 22 years, and still, after 22 years, Iran, as he admitted, did not have a nuclear weapon. They were just a month away. It's all such bullshit. I mean, the lie upon lie upon lie. This is about wanting to change the regime in Iran, to eliminate the Islamic Republic of Iran. And they're going to look for any excuse to try to do it. The difference, though, is that Iran is not as vulnerable or weak as it was even 3 months ago. Go back to June 13th when the first attacks took place. Iran has strengthened itself militarily, politically, and economically since then. And I would argue that the United States is not in a stronger position by any means. It has become more isolated diplomatically. It has created problems with its, formerly, I'll call them the Arab allies, that, have had some second thoughts about, how much do we want to get in bed with the United States? So, but this is not about objective reality. This is about perception. And Trump has convinced himself that, we obliterated Iran, and yet we obliterated Iran. We're going to have to go back and obliterate them again, which tells me he doesn't understand the meaning of the word obliterate.
It seems that he doesn't believe what he's trying to tell people.
Yeah, well, remember that speech was given before the United States Navy, the fleet based at Norfolk, Virginia. It was the 250th anniversary of the founding of the U.S. Navy. But this militaristic tilt by Trump, not just in the Middle East, but off the coast of Venezuela, and then allegedly, giving the green light for Ukraine to do certain things. It's pushing the United States um, into some conflicts that were both militarily and economically not equipped to handle. And nobody wants to hear that because we keep telling ourselves we're the best, we're the biggest, we're the greatest, and it's no longer true.
And here is what we heard from the former commander of IRGC. And he says that the moment Israel starts a war, we will also enter a war with the United States. So, do you think that if they attack Iran, are they going to attack at the same time the United States together with Israel?
That it
Or they're
sounds like
going to
yeah, they'll take out. They're not going to have um, this kabuki theater that we had last time. Last time, um, apparently there were talks behind the scenes between the United States and Tehran, maybe through someone who is mediating, but Iran got concessions out of the United States to ship oil, apparently to China. And in return, Iran was going to perform limited strikes at Al Udeid Air Force Base, and the United States knew when and where and how many missiles, etc. I don't think that'll be the case this next time. And I think maybe part of the preparation for this on the part of the United States is there has been reportedly a drawdown of the U.S. forces in Syria and in Jordan and Iraq. So I think at least U.S. military planners fully anticipate that if they renew attacks on Iran, that Iran will retaliate and will hit U.S. targets as well as Israeli targets.
What do we know about the international law if Iran attacks the US bases in the Arab states? So are these bases are part of the United States? Or are they part of the host, the countries they're in? What is the basics of understanding the situation if Iran goes in that direction?
Well, those bases ultimately belong to the host government, but it's just like with the U.S. with an embassy. That embassy where you fly the flag is considered national territory, whether it's U.S. or Russia or France or whoever. And this will, but look, international law does not matter to the United States, nor to Israel. It's if nothing else, at minimum, a minor inconvenience. It's something to be ignored. We see that with the United States attacking unarmed fishing boats allegedly carrying drugs off the coast of Venezuela. We see that with Israel boarding and halting ships in international water that are bringing supplies to the Palestinians. All this is illegal, but nobody's doing anything to stop it. And so, if you can go out and just do whatever the hell you want, commit any crime, steal anything, kill anyone, what's the incentive for you to stop? Feels good.
I think part of this war has already started because Iran is moving from GPS to the Chinese version of GPS. And that's one of the reasons. Recently, I watched a video, a guy who was in Russia, in Moscow. He was moving around and showing how GPS was inaccurate to show his position, his location. And it seems Iran is going to that direction because their GPS, somehow they're using GPS against these countries.
Yeah, well, and plus, there's also ways to disable GPS. I mean, I saw that in basically in the center part of Moscow, down around Red Square, the Bolshoi Theater. The GPS really doesn't work. It's only when you get miles away from the city center that all of a sudden it'll kick in. And so, this these previous attacks have divulged sources and methods, both by the U.S. and by Israel, that are leading countries like Russia, China, now Iran to react and take countermeasures. And so that means Israel and the United States may be looking for some new approaches, new ways to try to pinpoint, locate people. But I think that probably the final straw that broke the camel's back, to use that metaphor, was the bombing in Qatar and the attack on the Hamas delegation there.
Is there any room for negotiations, for talks between the West and Iran, from
Well,
what
yeah,
we've seen so far?
from Iran's standpoint, yes. From the West standpoint, no. They want Iran to surrender, to die. It is. I always come back to that movie Independence Day, where the aliens were attacking the Earth, and Iran reminds me a little bit about the character who played the U.S. president. And so the U.S. president goes down to see this creature that has been captured, and all of a sudden he gets there and the creature has gone wild and killed everybody, and so the president's talking to this creature through the mouth of a dead guy, and the president's like, well, what, can't we just talk, and what do you want? And the creature came back and said, die. Well, that's the West is like that alien creature, and Iran's like that naive president thinking, oh man, we can just talk, we'll find a way to, we want to work this out. This demonization of Iran has been it's been all part of my adult life. So it goes back to 1979, 1980. So here we are 45 years later, and the hatred for Iran still persists in the West, with the United States leading the charge. And yeah, we were. I remember driving past the Iranian embassy in Washington D.C. In 1980 after they had taken our citizens hostage, and I was outraged, and we were honking our horns and yelling epithets at the Iranian mission, failing to understand, appreciate, or acknowledge the role that the United States had played previously to that, to overthrowing a democratically elected government and installing a non-democrat in power who ended up being a pretty abusive person.
Actually, Israel is using his son to
Yeah.
to
Well, that's been done with the U.S. too. That's not just Israel. This is all part of this coordinated. I'm sure you've got Mossad and CIA coordinating messaging on all of this.
There was an article in Haaretz, in Israeli, newspaper media, and they're talking about how the movement of this crown prince of Iran, and he was used during the 12 days of war, and they have been preparing for this war long before that. They have created many accounts on X. They've prepared for the war as Israel started attacking Iran. They came out and just putting out a lot of news out there just to manipulate the situation against Iran.
Yeah.
And
well, their assumption was that once they killed the top leadership, military, political, that the government would collapse and that they'd be able to install a new outsider. I mean, it's just, it's crazy, but they genuinely believe that. That's what's sort of frightening, that they indulge these fantasies and end up trying to act on them.
I talked with Max Blumenthal the other day, and I asked him if there is a difference between the objectives of the United States and Israel when it comes to Iran. Is there any sort of difference between the two? He said there is no U.S. policy for Iran. It's all about Israel. It's
Well,
all
no,
about what Israel wants.
no, no, no. I don't think that's right. I think it's an element. Definitely. The United States take into account Israeli interests, but the United States also views Iran as, if you will, a launching pad for destroying Russia. So it is Iran. Iran sits at sort of a critical juncture, both geographically and politically and economically. That the United States' major preoccupation, yeah, keeping the Israelis happy, that's one element. But dealing with Russia, dealing with China, is also a part of that U.S. Um, consideration about dealing with Iran. We will be much better off, we believe, if we eliminate Iran. We have Iran on our side, then that's going to box in Russia, and it's going to box in China. It's going to reduce their options.